Hannity. Breaking tonight. I have said it before. I will say it again and prove it. Journalism, so-called journalism in this country is dead. And this weekend, you witness just one more, if not the final nail in the coffin. Well, now that the media's Russia obsession isn't exactly working out according to plan, well, instead of Russia, well, now it's Stormy, and more Stormy. The mainstream media's nonstop assault on President Trump and his character and credibility has reached an even new low. And then there's creepy Anderson Cooper, along with the king of porn, soon-to-be scandal-plagued Jeff Zucker, fake news CNN, they're all leading the way. Tonight, we will show you, get your tape recorders running, how this breathless hysteria surrounding Stormy Daniels exposes the blatant double standard within your mainstream media, and we'll give you our take on Stormy Daniels and the much-typed interview on 60 Minutes last night. Plus, despite the press in this country telling you it would never happen, President Trump, he is taking tough, swift action against Russia, expelling 60 diplomats, some of whom are spies, from our borders and closing Russia's consulate in Seattle. We have that and more. You do not want to miss our breaking news opening monologue. All right, so the left-wing mainstream media's contempt for this president has now reached a boiling point and, frankly, a point of unhinged insanity. This is especially true for fake news CNN. Now, for days, the Clinton News Network, they have been completely and utterly obsessed with porn star Stormy Daniels and her salacious claims that she had a brief affair, a one-time encounter with Donald Trump some 12 or 13 years ago. You don't believe me? Take a look for yourself.
Detailing on national television an intimate relationship with Donald Trump and the effort to conceal it. Adult film actress Stormy Daniels.
The White House briefing expected to begin any moment now. They will certainly face questions about Stormy Daniels.
The Stormy saga takes a dramatic turn as the porn star speaks out on her alleged affair with citizen Trump.
Stormy Daniels' lawyer.
We haven't heard from him about the Stormy Daniels affair.
Adult film star Stormy Daniels breaking her silence about her alleged affair with President Trump.
We're talking, I think, understandably and appropriately about the most serious legal allegations that Stormy Daniels made.
Stormy Daniels, I know you've heard a ton about that, and we have to see where that case goes and what this interview is about.
Is that possible to come up in the Stormy Daniels lawsuit? Will she be able to say, hey, look, this lawyer is involved with a whole bunch of different things here?
This could be the last nail in the coffin. Yeah. Stormy Daniels is causing stormy weather.
Porn star Stormy Daniels claims President Trump broke the law, had her bullied.
Does Stormy Daniels have the president's number? It sure seems that way.
President Trump might have met his match with Stormy Daniels.
How is Stormy weathering this?
Stormy speaks.
We're hearing quite a bit from Stormy Daniels.
Stormy, in her own words, isn't going anywhere.
Stormy Daniels has a good lawyer. The porn star Stormy Daniels was telling the truth.
Stormy Daniels is on a tear.
Quick preview of Stormy Daniels' interview this Sunday.
Breaking news that Stormy Daniels.
Stormy Daniels.
The
reason he can't engage with Stormy Daniels is because she's got his number.
Now, of course, the whole network, CNN, isn't just focusing in on Stormy Daniels. Well, the network is also giving ample airtime to the claims that are also made by a former Playboy playmate, Karen McDougal, capped with a particularly, frankly, creepy interview with Anderson Cooper on Thursday. Let's listen to these questions, and we got a lot more coming.
Would he call you?
He would call me, I would call him, vice versa.
So you had his phone number. When he called, did his number show up on the phone? Were you attracted to him? So the sex was consensual. Did he actually try to hand you money? Did he bring up his wife? Would he talk about his child, his son? Were you in love with him?
I was, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And do you think he was in love with you? Did Donald Trump ever say to you that he loved you? Did he have any nicknames for you? What did you think of the apartment? And he showed you around the apartment. How did you feel being in his apartment? Did he ever compare you to any of his kids? Did he ever use protection?
Now, meanwhile, last night on 60 Minutes, Anderson Cooper sat down for his much-anticipated interview with Stormy Daniels, but despite all the buildup and all the unverified, over-the-top claims made by her lawyer and all of the constant, obsessive-compulsive media obsession, Cooper's interview did fall flat and once again came off, sorry, Anderson, this is creepy. Take a look.
You told Donald Trump to turn around and take off his pants?
Yes.
And did he?
Yes. So he turned around and pulled his pants down a little, you know, he had underwear on and stuff, and I just gave him a couple swats.
This was done in a joking manner?
Yes.
Did you two go out for dinner that night?
No.
You had dinner in the room?
Yes.
What happened next? And you had sex with him?
Yes.
You were 27, he was 60. Were you physically attracted to him?
No.
Not at all?
No.
Did you want to have sex with him?
No. But I didn't say no. I'm not a victim. I'm not.
It was entirely consensual?
Oh, yes.
In an industry where condom use is an issue, did he use a condom?
No.
Did you ask him to?
No.
After you had sex, what happened? He definitely wanted to continue to see you.
Oh, for sure.
It wasn't, at that point, a business meeting. It was just watching Shark Week.
Yeah.
One-time consensual relationship alleged. Now, if you find those questions disturbing, wait until you see the interview footage that didn't make air from 60 Minutes overtime. I guess that's the extra tape that they had nothing to do with. It was posted online. And, yeah, this is tabloid trash. Take a look.
They wanted me to make a movie. And
a movie of you having sex with somebody who looked like Donald Trump.
And I said no repeatedly, much to their,
Why? Physically, you've seen him in ways that other people haven't.
Correct. And if need be, I could describe that.
His private parts.
Does Anderson really consider this hard news journalism? Now, despite claims from Stormy's lawyer that his client was ready to disclose a mountain of evidence about Trump's misconduct, the only potentially newsworthy moment from the interview was when Stormy's claims that she was threatened by an unidentified man following her alleged affair with Mr. Trump, a one-time affair. But even that claim wasn't backed up with any evidence, no evidence whatsoever. So instead, we just got the embarrassing details of a supposed or alleged one-night stand from over 12 years ago. Even some in the mainstream media, they are expressing their utter disappointment about Anderson's interviewing and hard-hitting journalism. Take a look.
So I think people thought there was going to be like a smoking gun here. Did we miss something?
As a young lawyer, I remember being told, never overpromise. Underpromise, overdeliver, and the jury will look positively on you. We have an attorney that's done just the opposite. He overpromised. He sent out tweets with pictures of a CD-ROM suggesting some big explosion. He told us 2 weeks ago that she was threatened with assault, and we would find out more on 60 Minutes, when in fact we found out nothing new on 60 Minutes. So what are you waiting for? What is the trigger that has you releasing the physical evidence?
I asked you whether there was any evidence, documentary evidence, text messages, photo evidence that verified that Stormy Daniels had the affair she claims that she had. You said to me, that's a question that Miss Daniels will have to ultimately answer. Cut to last night, she's asked directly about this on 60 Minutes, and she says, my attorney has instructed me not to answer. So, does she or doesn't she have this evidence?
All right, hell's frozen over. I agree with Liberal Joe and the Today Show's Savannah Guthrie. Now, for days right here on this program, we have been questioning if CNN's soon-to-be scandal-plagued chief, Jeff Zucker, has turned into the porn king. But tonight, after back-to-back lewd, cringeworthy, creepy interviews with Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal, again, allegations of a consensual relationship, it just looks like Anderson Cooper has now turned into CNN's Jerry Springer. It's a pretty compelling comparison. Let's take a look.
You told Donald Trump to turn around and take off his pants?
Yes.
And did he?
Yes.
You're young, you like to have fun, you're party girl, etc. So what's the story here?
Oh, Lord.
And you had sex with him?
Yes.
Do you want to be with her boyfriend?
No, it's just a one-time thing.
Did you want to have sex with him?
No. But I didn't say no.
You're not interested in being with him. He's just a customer, right? Or are you interested in being with him?
He ended up taking me home.
You work in an industry where condom use is an issue. Did he use a condom?
No.
Did you ask him to?
No.
So you had sex with him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Watch out, Jerry Springer. Creepy Anderson Cooper could be coming for your job. Now, we're not kidding. Look at this. CNN was running images all day long of, there she is, porn star Stormy Daniels next to Karen McDougal. We're not making this up. There's a serious note to all of this. And aside from Anderson's usually salacious interviews, the mainstream media's coverage of Daniels and McDougal is revealing a huge double standard in this country. You got allegations from a porn star about a one-time consensual relationship with Donald Trump. Gets round-the-clock coverage. CNN, NBC, ABC, CBS, Conspiracy TV, MSNBC, and others. Now, according to a study, this is where we get serious, from Newsbusters, between March 7th and March 25th, the evening newscasts from just NBC, ABC, and CBS, well, they dedicated a whopping 40 minutes of airtime to Trump allegations of a consensual relationship. But for decades, the mainstream media has completely ignored serious stories of abuse. Juanita Broderick, Paula Jones, Kathleen Willey, all women that accused a former president, Bill Clinton, of serial predator-like gross sexual misconduct. And the Media Research Center, they crunched those numbers. And according to their count, in 1994, when Paula Jones came forward with details about Bill Clinton dropping his pants and exposing himself to her in a hotel room, CBS and NBC actually ignored the story. ABC, to their credit, gave a whopping 16 seconds of coverage. And then in 1997, when Kathleen Willey's allegations about Bill Clinton became public, that he groped and grabbed and fondled and touched and kissed her against her will, well, CBS and NBC gave it 1 minute and 34 seconds of coverage. ABC didn't touch the story. But in fairness to Ed Bradley, who did pass away, he did do an interview on 60 Minutes with Kathleen, and I believe he talked to Paula. But CNN's evening newscast dedicated just 26 seconds of coverage. Big difference, CNN then and now. And in 1998, when news broke about Juanita Broderick's serious claims that she was raped by Bill Clinton in the 70s, ABC, CBS, they didn't find a spare second to cover it. And meanwhile, Lisa Myers from NBC, she booked the first interview with Juanita Broderick. And according to a report from the Washington Post, for over a month, NBC chief Andy Lack and others prevented the interview from airing because they said they were unable to corroborate her story. Now, right here on the Fox News channel, Brit Hume, remember? And others were wearing free Lisa Myers buttons on air to encourage NBC to release that extremely important interview. When the mainstream media eventually did cover the stories of Bill Clinton's accusers, the reporting was often dismissive. Let's take a look at some of the clips provided to us thanks to the Media Research Center.
Yes, the case is being fomented by right-wing nuts. And yes, she's not a very credible witness. And it's really not a law case at all. I think she's a dubious witness. I really do.
We've got an awful lot to talk about this week, including the sexual harassment suit against the president. Of course, in that one, it's tough to figure out who's really being harassed.
Is she not trying to capitalize on this, in effect, to profit from impugning the president?
I have to profess complete confusion over this entire case, why this is even a case.
What do you think of Ms. Broderick's story? Oh, I don't believe it at all. Anybody who waits 21 years to surface a charge like this and has no evidence to back it up, that other than very circumstantial, what she may or may not have told some of her friends at the time, has sworn in the deposition that it never happened, and all of a sudden comes forth with this story. The story doesn't deserve to be dignified by being broadcast and displayed.
Now, meanwhile, Matt Drudge on the Drudge Report had up on his website today that this 1998 op-ed in the New York Times dismissed claims against Clinton, writing, quote, publicly humiliating anyone for consensual adultery is draconian, and it's wrong. Well, I guess that's changed, too. And let's not forget that ABC's very own former Clinton sycophant, Georgie Stephanopoulos, he once threatened to end a person's career if they dared to go public with Clinton's affair allegations. Take a look at this threat.
What is names, address? I can send you a fax with names, addresses, phone numbers of who you had an affair with. It wouldn't make it true. It is completely if you went on the radio and said that Bill Clinton is the father of an illegitimate black child, you would be laughed at. People would think you're crazy. I guarantee you that if you do this, you'll never work in Democratic politics again. Maybe you don't want to. I'm not saying it matters. You will be embarrassed before the National Press Corps.
Now, the point of this is the appalling double standard in the media continued all throughout the 2016 election. The liberal press, essentially, they covered for then candidate Hillary Clinton, all while throwing her husband's accusers under the bus. We've got the videotape.
A trio of women who say Bill Clinton made unwanted sexual advances in the 80s and 90s. Mr. Clinton denies it. Two of the cases were plagued by factual discrepancies.
When it was Bill Clinton's problem, almost in the moment, Republicans tried to make it an issue, and it didn't work. So why is it going to work 20 years later with his wife? I just don't see it.
The big issue?
I would like to apologize to those tramps that have slept with my husband. Maybe she could have said that.
The rape accusation is decades old and discredited.
It's Hillary Clinton
who is the candidate here, not Bill Clinton. She was not implicated in any misconduct. She was not someone who was accused even of doing anything untoward with regard to these women.
It's about groping and fondling and touching against a woman's will.
And rape.
And rape.
Donald Trump using that word unprompted during an interview last night with Fox News' Sean Hannity, bringing up a discredited and long-denied accusation against former President Bill Clinton, dating back to 1978 when he was Arkansas Attorney General.
By the way, that's pretty pathetic. And in that last clip that we showed, Andrea Mitchell, NBC actually edited the online version to remove her using the word discredited. Now, what we just showed you is appalling. In just a few minutes, by the way, Paula Jones, Juanita Broderick, they will react to this double standard right here in studio to shed some light on how they have been treated by the liberal media. But it's very clear the mainstream media shrouds itself in moral superiority in order to just slam Donald Trump. But then gets down in the gutter to defend all things Clinton. They take accusations about 12 years ago about an alleged consensual encounter between Trump and Stormy Daniels, and they turn it into weeks and weeks-long scandal. But even up until November of 2016, they were totally timid as it relates to Bill Clinton's serial predatory behavior, almost ignoring all of the allegations. Think of this: rape, groping, fondling, touching, kissing against one woman's will, exposing yourself. You know, when it comes to Bill Clinton, oh, okay, they're not going to fixate on any of it, but every detail of an alleged consensual relationship as it relates to Donald Trump over a decade ago. Journalism is dead, and every day it gets buried deeper and deeper. All right, which brings us to our next top story that the media will not talk about tonight, and that is their narrative, the Trump-Russia collusion narrative, suffered yet another blow today. And in response to Putin's sanctioned nerve attack against an agent, against an ex-spy in Great Britain, the Trump administration announced they're kicking out 60 Russian diplomats in this country, including some who are believed to be spies operating in the U.S. And a Russian consulate in Seattle was ordered closed because of its proximity to a U.S. naval base. Now, the expelled Russians will have just 7 days to leave this country. And while President Trump takes serious action against Russia, well, something we didn't see until the final weeks of the Obama administration, you might remember when the mainstream media was predicting that Donald Trump would do the exact opposite, that President Trump was some kind of shill for Vladimir Putin, or Brennan saying last week, oh, maybe they've got something on Donald Trump.
I think he's afraid of the president of Russia.
Why?
Well, I think one can speculate as to why. That the Russians may have something on him personally that they could always roll out and make his life more difficult.
It's so clear at this point that Vladimir Putin and his associates, somebody has something on Donald Trump.
That may be something that turns the key in the Russia probe, is figuring out why this president is so deferential to Putin and to Russia, and if there is some sort of compromat that they have on him.
Donald Trump is afraid. A political hurricane is out there at sea for him. We'll call it Hurricane Vladimir, if you will, the whole Russian thing.
They make these decisions time and time again in a way that makes it appear that they're hostages, that he's Vladimir Putin's hostage.
All right, I'm back to disagreeing with Liberal Joe. You just heard it. Former CIA Director Brennan said the Russians must have something on Trump. Okay, then if they did, why would he do what he did today? I wonder if the media is going to publicly eat those words, but don't hold your breath. Now, if the media's obsession with Russia, 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 followed by their new obsession with Stormy, 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 has taught us anything, it's that when the media is wrong, they'll just move on to another story. Never mind. And our next guest, Monica Crowley, wrote an op-ed in The Hill today titled, "Do Voters Care About Trump's Sexual History? Ask Bill Clinton." She joins us now, along with CRTV host Michelle Malkin. You were saying something to me. I can't wait for Saturday Night Live.
Well, watching those clips, which are frankly embarrassing now in the Me Too era, everybody who made those comments excusing Bill Clinton's behavior, abhorrent behavior, allegations of rape and sexual assault and sexual harassment, they ought to be extremely embarrassed. But all of this hysterical coverage over Stormy Daniels, you know, we all know sex sells. Okay, that's part of it. But this breathless coverage looks like a Saturday Night Live skit. And the point, Sean, is that they are so desperate to try to get Trump on anything. And now that the Russian collusion story is falling apart, at least with regard to Trump and his team, it's certainly in play with Hillary Clinton, the DNC, and the Democrats. But now that that line is falling apart, they've got to come up with a new narrative. So what they're doing with Stormy Daniels is not about the consensual sex from over a decade ago. They're trying to nail him on some sort of violation of campaign finance law. They're dying for a Trump stag tape to come out at some point that they can roll. Anything to embarrass and use as a weapon against Donald Trump, they will find.
Michelle, I think Monica's hit a lot of good points. One that really stood out is in the era of Me Too, the treatment of Juanita and Paula, who will join us, Kathleen Willey, and others, in retrospect, but it wasn't that long ago because they defended the Clintons through 2016, November of 2016. Your reaction?
Yeah, that's right. And, you know, Monica's piece was fantastic. And, Sean, I listened to your interview earlier this afternoon on radio with Juanita Broderick. I can't wait to see her on the channel speaking truth as she has for all of these years, as all of these media hypocrites turn their nose up at her, who were enablers for the victim smearing machine of the Clintons. And so it is not past history, as I've said before, as we've talked about before, to bring up that hypocrisy and make them confront it. What CNN and CBS are guilty of is soft-core journalism driven by a hardcore obsession to bring this president down. The greatest hypocrisy, and Monica knows this well because we've lived it as conservative women in public life for 20, 25, 30 years, is that when these Me Too radical feminists say believe all women, there is a massive exception in that rule, and that is never believe a conservative woman or a Republican woman who is turning the tables and exposing the sexual predation of Democratic and liberal men.
It is such a difference in topics, and Monica, I'll throw this to you. In other words, this is over a dozen years ago. We're talking about consensual, both women, Karen McDougal and Stormy Daniels, both women say it's consensual. Then you compare it to rape, groping, grabbing, touching, fondling, kissing against Kathleen's will, Paula Jones dropping his pants, and they did everything they could do to ignore it and not hold Hillary accountable for defending him.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, the double standard is glaring. But the idea that the leftist media would think that the Stormy Daniels or Karen McDougal stories are going to stick and somehow damage Donald Trump. Bill Clinton, who they aided and abetted all those years ago and continue to do so, by the way, he rewrote the playbook on this. He taught the American voter, taught the American people not to regard this kind of thing with any kind of real importance, right? To treat it as irrelevant. What happens in a presidential bedroom or before a man becomes president stays in the bedroom, right? Especially if it's consensual. We're not talking about non-consensual here. He rewrote the rules here. And now Donald Trump is saying, look, he's not saying anything. He's being defended. This is a long ago thing. So if we want to apply the rules that Bill Clinton put into place, well, why not? Then it's the same, it should be the same standard.
And in fairness, Ed Bradley did interview, I believe, Kathleen and Paul. In fairness, and he worked with 60 Minutes. He was a great reporter over the years. I have a lot of good things to say about him. But the tawdry aspects, am I wrong in just thinking Anderson Cooper is creepy? And when I'm comparing him to Jerry Springer, that's what I'm reminded of. Is America understanding this? 22 million people watched last night. Huge number, Michelle. But I suspect it was out of curiosity more than anything else.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it was sort of like a rubbernecking in front of a train wreck. And, you know, you can put your smart glasses on and have this veneer of gravitas. But in essence, Anderson Cooper is no different than Stormy Daniels in being a striptease exhibitionist.
And you know what? There's one other thing, and I agree with everything that Michelle said. There's one other thing. The way it boomeranged and actually helped Bill Clinton survive impeachment, and there was sort of a rallying around the president, same thing is going to happen here. People tuned in last night because it was salacious. And
but, you know, they're also missing the biggest abuse of power.
This kind of thing actually helps Donald Trump.
Are we going to start asking questions about so-called journalists and every detail of their lives?
Well, they would not want the spotlight shown on them now, would they?
And then would say that's over the line, wouldn't they? Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, listen, this country has serious problems. The country elected Donald Trump to deal with them. They could care less about a story like that. They want the president to deal with our issues.
I'm pretty sure I made a lot of friends in the industry tonight. I'd like to say welcome all of you. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. All right, the show's far from over. When we come back, a Hannity exclusive. Paula Jones and Juanita Broderick, they react to this gross hypocrisy and how their allegations of sexual misconduct against Bill Clinton were ignored by many of these same people. That's next, straight ahead. And joining us now with reaction to our opening monologue, two women who did accuse President Bill Clinton of sexual misconduct and being a predator, Paula Jones, Juanita Broderick. Good to see you both. It's great to have you. Now, you have a new book that has come out. I actually have a copy of it here because you forgot to bring me. I have an autographed copy.
Oh, here, I've got it.
You got it. Okay. And this is it. You better put some ice on that. How I Survived Being Raped by Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
Now, what's amazing about this is, have you ever been interviewed on 60 Minutes?
Oh, no, never. Yeah. Our CNN, our MSNBC.
Yeah, well, there it is. Yeah. Look, you've never been interviewed by CNN.
No.
MSNBC.
Never.
60 Minutes.
Never.
And it was hard to get it on NBC with Lisa Myers, who I know wanted to air her interview with you.
Yes.
And I have said this to you. In all my years, I'm now 23 years at Fox, 30 years in radio, your interview, and you actually write about some of this in the book, was the hardest interview I've ever done.
Oh, that's right. You know, and you were the second interview that I had done and the last. Of course, there was Dorothy Rabinowitz in between. But when you came to my home with all of your people and sat down, I never thought about this being as emotional to you as it, you know, as it was to me. But we sat down, and as I began to tell you the horrific events.
This is a brutal rape.
Yes. When I began to tell you about that, I turned and looked at you at one time, and he had tears in his eyes, and it just overwhelmed me. You've always been so good to us, and I appreciate it.
You know, one thing that Lisa Myers said to you when she said, we can't air the interview right now, she said, well, I have two good news and bad news. You're credible.
Yeah.
You're too credible.
Right.
And this whole title, you better put some ice on that, is from the story. He raped you, and when he was done, he told you because he had bit your lip.
Yes. He bit my lip to keep me quiet. By the time he was leaving the room, calmly puts on his sunglasses and motions to my lip and says, you better put some ice on that, and coldly walks out the door.
You had the experience, and you won your lawsuit.
I did. Absolutely.
You got a judgment in your favor. They settled.
If you ask the liberals, though, no, absolutely not.
Okay, you won a lot of money too.
I did.
Okay, but he exposed himself. He I guess noticed you, invited you to the hotel room, and he dropped his pants.
Exactly.
Here's my question. You watched the interview with Stormy, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and you see the breathless hysteria of the coverage.
This is, yeah, insane.
When you compare Juanita's story, your story, Kathleen Willey, who's not here tonight.
There's no comparison. He did, you know what, Mr. Trump, if he did that, you know what, it wasn't a crime. He did not do something that was a crime. There's a difference there. She admitted that he didn't do anything to her that hurt her or whatever. You know, she was a willing participant. And it's so different, but we did not get the same kind of coverage that she's getting.
Not even close.
It is outrageous, absolutely. We were made fun of. We were talked about. We were on late night talk shows, you know, making fun of us, you know.
Constantly.
It was horrible.
Yes, it
absolutely.
was constant.
We were never, yeah, remember James Carville, you know, drag a $100 bill through a trailer park?
A dollar bill through a trailer park.
Yes, absolutely. I've never lived in a trailer park, but, you know, I mean, that's the way they treated us. And this was a serious thing. And, you know, that even through Hillary's election, she never, ever was asked anything about us women. Never.
Do you
Didn't
remember
care.
when she said, oh, women have a right to be heard
yes,
and to believe?
Absolutely.
And having interviewed both of you and Kathleen in the past.
Right.
I remember saying, does that mean we believe Juanita now? Does that mean we believe Paula and
Absolutely not. After I tweeted what I did on January the 6th, she calmly removed "you should be believed" from her website.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You tweeted last night at Anderson Cooper in 60 Minutes.
I did.
And you tweeted, oh, would you like to interview me about my book?
Yeah, yeah.
You heard from Anderson yet? You haven't been on with Anderson?
But I'm not a porn star. I was a hardworking nurse and businesswoman. You know, I was
a nurse.
I was, and I was a hardworking person, but I wasn't a porn star, so I guess that's why they weren't interested in me.
I think it was because of politics. And the idea is, I've always talked about this president having 5 big groups against him. You got the deep state. We talk about that a lot. You got the liberal media. You got Democrats, Republicans, and never Trumpers. It seems like if you're a Democrat, Me Too doesn't matter. It seems if you're a Democrat, women's rights don't matter. And you two are living examples of it.
Exactly. I know. It's just like when they contacted me to do an interview for the Me Too, long before we knew they were going to be Person of the Year. I told them I did not feel a part of that because no one had ever included me in it. This was Charlotte Alter from Time magazine.
You were Me Too long before the Me Too movement, and you were brutalized for it.
I know, and then they asked me to submit a comment to them, which I said, okay, I will, in support of the Me Too. And then all of a sudden they come out as being Person of the Year, and I looked for my comment, and it wasn't there.
Wow.
Yeah. Me Too, before, what do you say to all of those people that act so sanctimonious and they're feigning such outrage over 2 alleged consensual relationships?
Exactly. Well, it's because they're trying to get Donald Trump out of office, and they're going to do everything they can. That is my opinion, that they're going to do everything they can to try and impeach him, or try to drag up stuff about him.
Is this what it's now about, though? Is it about now we want every detail of every consensual relationship going back a dozen years of any politician?
Only if it's a Republican.
Not a Democrat.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's not about that.
Was it hard seeing all this, and then does it bring up memories for both of you of what you all went through?
Yeah, it never goes away. I tweeted that one time, back in 2016. It's something. It's like Leslie Milwee said today. When you've been victimized as horrifically as I was, it's in your DNA. You do not forget it.
All right. I want to thank you. Good to see you both. Yeah. By the way, Paula started a coffee company that swears I'm going to lose weight, so she gave me some coffee.
Absolutely.
Thank you. This book, by the way, you can get it on Amazon.com, Hannity.com, and I guess in bookstores or Amazon.com?
Noble. What is it? Barnes & Noble.
Can I tell them my website to go to?
Yeah, sure.
It's paulasweightlosscoffee.com.
Okay.
And you can contact me on Facebook, Paula Jones.
All right. Thank you both. Good to see you both.
Thank you, Sean.
Thanks.
All right. Also tonight, as we explained in the monologue, President Trump severely punished Russia and its president, the bad actor that is Vladimir Putin, today for poisoning the ex-spy and his daughter in Great Britain earlier this month. The president now ordered the expulsion of 60 Russian diplomats, some of whom are spies, and closed the Russian consulate in Seattle. Joining us now with the reaction, national security strategist, former deputy assistant to the president, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, and Catalina magazine publisher, Kathy Aru. Didn't we just hear from Brennan, the former CIA director? He'll never take on Russia because they've got information on him. Apparently not.
You mean the same Brennan that voted for the Communist Party in 1976? That John Brennan, Sean?
That's the guy, yeah. If he was compromised the way Brennan said and then regurgitated by Kathy's liberal friends in the media, sorry, Kathy, then I guess he wouldn't do what he did today, would he?
Sean, every single significant policy decision that President Trump has taken since January the 20th of the inauguration has hurt Vladimir Putin, whether it's unlocking the Anwar for oil exploration, the XL pipeline, getting NATO after 30 years to finally commit to spending 2% of their GDP on defense, raising the defense budget, arming the Ukrainians. Every single one of them is bad for Vladimir, the former KGB the officer. Look, the left lives in a fantasy world. You know, the Max Boots, the John Brennans are ideologically never Trumpers. It's not about reality. It's about undermining a president, Sean.
Kathy, let me ask you, if John Brennan was right, well, let me ask you this way. Who's tougher on Russia? Obama, Mr. Reset, Mr. Vladimir, told Vladimir, I will do it after the election. I'll have more flexibility. Who's tougher on Russia? Donald Trump or Barack Obama and Hillary?
So we really think that Donald Trump was tough on Russia? We think this is tough, doing what 24 other nations have done?
Kathy, let me help educate your liberal mind. This will help you.
Okay.
Because this is important. Do you understand that by moving America towards energy independence, he has literally cut the legs underneath Vladimir Putin?
Oh, okay. And
literally,
then what he's recently done,
that is the only
Vladimir
economic
Putin.
Engine he has. That's it.
So he had him on the phone and congratulated him and didn't mention anything about...
Just like Barack Obama did in 2012.
But this had not happened. What happened in Britain to the spy and his daughter is horrific, and that didn't happen on Obama's watch.
Let me ask you a question. Was it wrong of
watch.
Donald Trump to pay for a dossier on with Russian... Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. That was Hillary.
I thought we were talking about getting tough on Russia, and I don't think Donald Trump is getting tough on Russia.
No, Hillary paid for the Russian dossier full of Russian government lies, Dr. Gorka.
Look at the track record of Obama and of his Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton. They rolled over when Vladimir Putin invaded another country. They sent this plastic reset button. They had the hot mic moment about flexibility. They closed down the missile deal with Central Europe that the prior president had promised to our NATO allies. The last administration facilitated the rise of Vladimir Putin.
We don't even know what Trump has done for. We don't even know what Trump has done for Putin. I think you're in the fantasy land. We have no idea what Trump has actually done for Putin. We may never even know.
So it's a conspiracy theory.
It's a conspiracy
Shall I give you a tinfoil hat? Because you don't know. Well, nobody knows apart from you, right?
We do not.
Kathy,
know yet. That's why
guys,
we have an investigation going on.
Dr. Gorka.
Look, at the end of the day, it's about facts. The Russian economy is a one-horse town. It depends on one thing, oil and gas. That's it. Everything the president has done has hurt them at the core of their existence. They are in a death spiral economically and demographically. And anybody who denies that is an ideologue. It's as simple as that, Sean.
Yeah, it's simply diversion. Everything Trump has done is diversion. That's what it is. That's what it is.
Do you have any evidence after all this time of Trump-Russia collusion that you can share with us, Kathy?
Well, the investigation's going on, so I can't wait to see what they find out.
It's been a year and 4 months. Do you have any evidence at all? Do you have any evidence
showing otherwise?
Well, Kathy, this is an easy question. Do you have any evidence up to date?
I cannot wait for it to come to a conclusion.
Do you have any evidence so far?
This is the diversion.
It's not a diversion. I am simply waiting to find out with what is going to happen and what the results are. Well, none of us know yet.
I'm waiting.
None of us know.
How long? Should we wait 8 years?
9 years later.
I can't wait. Yeah, I'm excited.
We found evidence. He wrote an email to...
because you hate the president. It's about hatred.
I'm looking for the truth.
It's the left.
It's truth.
It's hatred. If it were about truth, it wouldn't be conspiracy theories.
When we come back, part 3 of The Hill's explosive on-camera interview with the Uranium One FBI informant that was literally infiltrated Putin's network in America. Only on Hannity. Straight ahead. All right, tonight's exclusive clip from The Hill's interview with the Uranium One FBI informant William Douglas Campbell details what he learned while undercover regarding Russia's role in the Iran nuclear program. This is so pivotal. And the fact that the media cares about Stormy and not this is breathtaking to me.
The people I was working with had been briefed by Moscow to keep a very low profile regarding Moscow's relationship with Tehran. Moscow was supplying equipment, nuclear services to Iran, and Moscow, specifically the leadership in Moscow, were concerned that it would offset the strategy they had here in the United States if the United States understood the close relationship between Moscow and Tehran.
Here with more investigative reporters John Solomon and Campbell's attorney Victoria Tunsing, Fox News contributor and investigative reporter Sarah Carter, and Greg Jarrett also with us. Okay, let me start with John. You interviewed him. I am actually going to interview Mr. Campbell on Wednesday of this week. You broke some new ground here. This explain what people just heard there. Let me fix my flag.
It's very, very important. If you start where we started a few months ago, we believe that there was one red flag, one reason for Barack Obama not to give all this uranium to the Russians in the form of billions of dollars of contracts, the Uranium One sale. He proved all those things. We now know for the first time that he also was passing along a second red flag. Russia, Rosatom, was assisting Iran's illicit nuclear program. He gave very specific details. And tonight, after my story broke, I got a call from some intelligence sources. They gave me a little bit more information. Doug Campbell was providing information about the Bashir nuclear power plant in Iran. Russia was helping that specific plant. Why is that important? The U.S. was so concerned about that they eventually unleashed the Stuxnet virus with Israel, targeting that very plant. So it was a place we were very concerned about. Doug Campbell was telling the Obama administration early on, this is a problem.
So, wait a minute. So what we're saying here, Sarah, is that Campbell's identifying the specific Russian nuclear plant, the Iranian nuclear plant. The Russians are helping. Now, that goes into the Obama deal to give them all that money. That goes into, Campbell knew all this 18 months before they signed off on the Uranium One deal. They knew about all the crimes.
Well, I think this is what's so important here, Sean, for people to remember historically. When the Obama administration in 2010 decided to reset with Russia, they basically pulled away those sanctions that had been put in place by the Bush administration. And when they did that, it opened the gateway. It allowed the Russians to enter our uranium market, our energy market. But at the same time, it allowed the Russians to continue working with the Iranians. And at that point in time, I mean, that Campbell was providing all of this information, the Obama administration was well aware of it. And not only that, it also opened up the door for the SR-300 missiles, their defense missiles that the Russians were going to sell and did sell to Iran so that they could defend these power plants that we were so intent on finding more information about, these nuclear reactors that we believe they were using for their nuclear program, not just for medical use, but to build missiles, to build warheads. And these nuclear power plants were so important at that time to our congressional leaders that they didn't want any of these plans to go through. That's why there were so many people fighting the Uranium One deal.
We are talking about, Victoria, the most important aspects of America's national security. He was involved he understood and was an operative inside Putin's network from 2009, 18 months before the CFIUS approved this Uranium One deal. A lot of this could have been avoided. I know it's not to the level of Stormy Daniels, the porn star, but when it deals with, Sarah's laughing, but seriously, this is America's national security, and Congress, Victoria, literally the Democrats trying to attack your client who bravely got into this network and likely could have been killed, a 30-year operative.
Hey, Sean, you've done so much on this issue, and now it's time for Congress to act. I want you to get the members of the House Intel and Oversight Committee on the show and ask them why. For 5 years, Doug Campbell gave detailed oral briefings to the FBI, sitting in the back of a government van, as he describes it. For 5 years, he gave them all kinds of written product to specify what was going on with the Russians. And luckily,
who was
he kept
the FBI director at the time? Oh, that was Robert Mueller, right?
Oh, yes, yes. But is Chris Wray going to act? Now, it's time for Congress to issue a subpoena for those documents if they can't get it by a simple request. But to my knowledge, they haven't even requested it. And the other thing that Congress should ask for is the presidential briefings of President Obama during that time, his daily presidential briefings, because Mr. Campbell was told that the president was receiving information about this investigation. What did Obama know when he was sucking up to the Iranians and also sucking up to the Russians in 2009 and 2010?
John, I only have about 2 minutes left. I want to get everybody in. you spent time around this man, and he has tried at the time to share it with Congress. Why didn't Congress want to hear this? And why didn't the FBI do anything?
Well, we don't know that the FBI didn't do anything. It's possible they reported it up the chain and that at a higher level in the policy-making structure, someone made a decision, we're going to turn the other way and try to get a deal with Russia. It didn't happen, and we got fleeced for a lot of uranium contracts. Congress has interviewed him, but they haven't gone further in trying to get these documents. And I think the documents create a really clear story about how the United States was taken to the woodshed by Russia.
Sarah?
Yeah, I have to agree with John on this. I mean, look, they need to find out how much was actually shared with our intelligence community, how much did they act on, and how little they acted on it at that time when we came to Uranium One, when it came to our energy market. This is what Doug Campbell can provide. He provides a roadmap so that our Congress can investigate these issues, fully investigate them, vet them, and make them public.
Last word, Victoria.
I want you to get those members on, Sean. You know, I sometimes I get on one note.
I'm going to meet your client on Wednesday, so I'll do that on Wednesday.
We're going to see you on Wednesday, but I want you to get members of those committees on your show and say, why aren't you asking for all of those documents?
I know, but it's not Stormy. How could anyone ever want to pay attention to something that actually impacts people's lives and national security and safety of the American people?
It's very sad.
And I'm not being facetious. It is pathetic. It is, yeah, exactly. All right, guys, thank you. When we come back, former President Obama outlining what he hopes to achieve next. We'll play the tape. All right, did you think one Obama presidency was bad enough? Well, think again. The former president, during a speech in Japan, talked about what he hopes to achieve next. God help us.
The Obama Foundation could potentially create a platform for young, up-and-coming leaders, both in the United States but all around the world, to come together, meet together, create a digital platform. If I could do that effectively, then I would create 100 or 1,000 or 1,000,000 young Barack Obamas.